Kumi tossed and turned in her bed, the humid night air doing little to soothe her restless dreams. The ceiling fan spun lazily above her, barely stirring the thick, heavy air. Outside, the distant hum of the city was muffled by the darkness, but inside her small room, the silence was broken only by her restless movements and the occasional sigh that escaped her lips. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she clutched her pillow, searching for comfort that never seemed to come. Every night, vivid images flashed before her eyes. A mighty city gleaming with bronze, warriors adorned in coral beads and leopard skins. The city was alive with the sound of drums and the shimmer of sunlight on ancient walls. She saw processions of proud figures, their faces both familiar and strange, moving through grand courtyards and bustling markets. The air in her dreams was thick with the scent of incense and the distant echo of songs sung in a language she could not name. Their whispers echoed around her, pronouncements in a language she couldn't understand, yet felt deep within her soul. The voices seemed to swirl and dance, sometimes gentle, sometimes urgent, as if trying to guide her through a maze of memories not her own. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, and she sensed the presence of those who had come before her, watching, waiting, hoping she would listen. The faces and voices felt so real, as if they were trying to tell her something important. Their eyes, deep and knowing, seemed to pierce through the veil of time, silently urging her to remember, to understand. Sometimes she would reach out in her dream, desperate to touch them, but they always remained just out of reach, fading like mist at dawn. She would wake with a start, heart pounding, the whispers fading with the light of dawn. The room would be quiet again, but the echoes of her dreams lingered, leaving her with a sense of longing and 1,000 unanswered questions. Each morning she wondered if she was losing her mind, or if something far greater was calling out to her from beyond the world she knew. The next morning, Kumi sat with her uncle, Professor Peter, a renowned historian, in his study lined with books and artifacts. The room was filled with the scent of old paper and polished wood, and sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting golden patterns on the floor. Shelves overflowed with ancient texts, and every surface seemed to hold a relic from the past. A carved mask, a bronze figurine, a faded photograph. She recounted her dreams, her voice barely above a whisper. Each word felt heavy, as if she were confessing a secret she barely understood herself. She described the city, the warriors, the voices that called to her in the night, and the strange sense of belonging that lingered even after she awoke. Professor Peter listened intently, his face etched with concern and a flicker of recognition. He leaned forward, his eyes never leaving hers, as if searching for answers in her words. The lines on his face deepened, and for a moment he seemed lost in thought, remembering something from long ago.
Kumi, my dear, these are not just dreams. They are visions, echoes of a history that lives within you. Our ancestors have always found ways to speak to those who are willing to listen, and it seems they have chosen you. They are messages from our ancestors calling out to you. They want you to remember who you are and where you come from. The past is not as distant as it seems. It lives on in our blood, in our stories, and in our dreams. This, Kumi, holds the key to unlocking the secrets of your dreams. It is time for you to discover the truth that has been waiting for you, hidden in plain sight.
Professor Peter unrolled a scroll, his touch gentle, reverent. The parchment crackled softly as he spread it across the table, its surface covered in intricate symbols and faded ink. Kumi leaned in, her breath catching as she realized she had seen some of these markings before, in her dreams. A heavy silence filled the room as the ancient parchment revealed its secrets. In that moment, Kumi felt the weight of generations pressing gently on her shoulders, and she knew her journey was only just beginning. The scroll, brittle with age, crackled as Professor Peter unfurled it, the delicate parchment threatening to crumble beneath his careful touch. The air in the study was thick with anticipation, dust motes swirling in the golden afternoon light as he worked. Slowly, the ancient document revealed its secrets, a sprawling family tree, its branches heavy with names written in an elegant ancient script. Each name seemed to whisper stories of generations past, their lives woven together in a tapestry of history and legacy. Professor Peter's finger moved gently along the faded lines, pausing at a name circled in red ink, the color now faded but still distinct. The circled name stood out, as if calling to be noticed. its significance echoing through the silence of the room.
Queenie Den, he announced softly, reverence in his voice. Your great-great-grandmother Kumi. She was a powerful ruler of the ancient Benin kingdom, a woman whose wisdom and strength shaped the destiny of her people. Her legacy is not just a story in a book, it is a living part of who you are.
Kumi's breath hitched, her heart pounding in her chest as the truth settled over her like a heavy cloak. The room seemed to shrink, the weight of the revelation pressing in from all sides. Queen? Her? The idea seemed impossible, almost fantastical. She had always felt ordinary, never suspecting that royal blood ran through her veins. Yet as she gazed at the name, a jolt of recognition ran through her. Memories of her mother's stories, half-remembered lullabies, and whispered legends suddenly made sense. Instinctively, she reached for the simple coral necklace she always wore, a cherished gift from her late mother. Her fingers traced the smooth beads, and her eyes widened as she noticed the same necklace depicted in the portrait of Queen Aiden on the scroll. The connection was undeniable.
Your mother would have wanted you to know this, Kumi. She kept the stories alive so you could one day understand your place in this long line of remarkable women. It is time, Kumi, to embrace your heritage. The past is not just behind you, it is within you, guiding your steps toward the future. This symbol here, he continued, represents a hidden chamber beneath the ancient city. It was a sacred place, where our ancestors communed with the spirits and sought wisdom in times of need. Few know of its existence, but it is a key to understanding your legacy. I believe this is where your dreams are leading you, Kumi. The answers you seek may be waiting in the shadows of the past, ready to be discovered.
The weight of history pressed in, urging Kumi forward. With every heartbeat, she felt the call of her ancestors, their voices rising from the scroll and echoing in her soul, guiding her toward a destiny she was only beginning to understand. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and something ancient. Kumi, Professor Peter, and her cousin Emeka stood before a weathered stone wall in an abandoned part of the city. Using the symbol from the scroll, Professor Peter discovered a hidden lever, revealing a narrow passageway.
Looks like someone's been watching too many Indiana Jones films.
They were treading on sacred ground, a place untouched by time. As they ventured deeper, the passage illuminated by flickering torches, the walls came alive with intricate carvings, warriors, animals, spirits. The whispers in Kumi's dreams grew stronger, urging her forward. They reached a vast chamber, a stone dais shimmering under the torchlight. Kumi stepped onto the dais, and the room seemed to come alive. Images flickered around her, ghostly figures in the torchlight. A beautiful woman with Kumi's eyes, draped in coral beads, her face etched with sorrow. A man, tall and fair-skinned, his uniform a stark contrast, his expression a mixture of love and anguish.
Your parents.
Kumi watched the story of her parents' forbidden love unfold. Her mother, a descendant of royalty, and her father, a British officer. Their love ended in tragedy, her mother sacrificing everything to protect her lover and their child. The visions faded, leaving Kumi reeling with the weight of her family's past.
Your mother's sacrifice saved your father, but it came at a terrible price. She was ostracized by our family, her memory shrouded in shame. The prophecy speaks of a daughter, born of two worlds, who will right the wrongs of the past and reclaim what was stolen.
Professor Peter gestured to the carvings on the dais, now glowing with otherworldly light. The carvings transformed into a story of conquest and loss. British soldiers looting the palace, ancestors' faces filled with defiance and despair. At the center, a young woman, arms outstretched, face resolute. I stared at the figure, my own reflection shimmering in the polished stone. A daughter born of two worlds. Could it be me? The weight of responsibility pressed down, inescapable. For weeks, Kumi immersed herself in her family's history, devouring every book and whispered tale Professor Peter could find. She trained with Emeka, who possessed a warrior's spirit and surprising knowledge of ancient combat. They practiced with staffs passed down through generations, their movements growing fluid. In her dreams, Kumi truly began to understand her destiny. The whispers grew stronger, guiding her across continents and time. She saw the Benin bronzes displayed in distant museums, her ancestors' faces longing for home. With each vision, Kumi's resolve solidified. she would bring them home. A new moon hung in the sky, casting long shadows across the ancient city. Kumi stood once more on the dais, the air thrumming with anticipation. Tonight, she would call upon the spirits of her ancestors for guidance and strength. Emika and Professor Peter stood beside her, their faces a mix of apprehension and hope.
Kumi closed her eyes and began to chant, the ancient words flowing through her. The air crackled with energy, the carvings on the walls pulsing with light. Ghostly figures materialized, their eyes burning with inner fire. Warriors, queens, artisans, all connected to her by blood and history, their voices rising in a chorus of support.
They embraced her, filling her with belonging and purpose. She was the culmination of their hopes and dreams.
Kumi felt their strength surge within her. Kumi opened her eyes, her spirit soaring. The first rays of morning sunlight filtered through the window, painting golden patterns across her face. For a moment, she allowed herself to simply breathe, feeling the warmth and promise of a new day settle over her. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. She looked at Emika and Professor Peter, their faces awash in the ethereal glow. The chamber seemed transformed, the ordinary walls shimmering with a strange, otherworldly light. In that moment, the three of them were bound together by something ancient and powerful, a force that pulsed just beneath the surface.
I am ready, she declared, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. The words echoed in the chamber, stronger than she expected, as if her ancestors themselves were lending her their courage. She felt the weight of destiny settle on her shoulders, but also the lightness of hope.
The journey ahead would be long and arduous, but Kumi knew she was not alone. Each step forward would test her resolve, but she could sense the presence of those who had walked this path before her, guiding her through the unknown. Her ancestors walked beside her, their strength her shield. Their whispered wisdom echoed in her mind, reminding her of the resilience and courage that flowed through her veins. She drew comfort from their silent support, feeling their presence as a gentle but unbreakable bond. As they left the chamber, a single ray of moonlight illuminated a small, intricately carved ivory figure in the corner. The figure seemed to glow with a mysterious energy, casting long shadows that danced across the floor. It was as if the past itself was reaching out, trying to warn them or perhaps guide them. It depicted a man, his features obscured, a serpent coiled around his staff. The craftsmanship was exquisite, but there was something unsettling about the hidden face and the way the serpent's eyes seemed to follow Kumi as she moved. She felt a chill run down her spine, sensing the figure's significance.
What is it, Uncle? Kumi asked, a shiver running down her spine. Her voice was barely above a whisper, the question heavy with fear and curiosity. She could not tear her eyes away from the ivory figure, its presence both captivating and ominous.
Professor Peter turned the figure over, his gaze distant. He studied the intricate carvings, tracing the serpent's coils with a trembling finger. The weight of history seemed to press down on him, and for a moment he looked much older, burdened by secrets long kept. A powerful sorcerer, he murmured, a master manipulator who thrived on chaos. His voice was low, almost reverent, as if speaking the words might awaken something best left undisturbed. The legend had haunted his studies for years, but seeing the figure in person made the danger feel real. Banished from Benin City centuries ago, his name was never spoken. The city's elders had erased him from their stories, hoping to bury his memory forever. Yet the shadow he cast lingered, stretching across the sea and through generations. He looked at Kumi, his expression grave. The weight of responsibility was clear in his eyes, and Kumi felt the enormity of what lay ahead settle in her chest. This was more than a journey, it was a reckoning with the past. They called him the Serpent's Shadow. And now, as the moonlight faded, Kumi understood that their quest was only just beginning, and that the true test of her courage was yet to come.
A sense of foreboding settled over Kumi. The Serpent's Shadow. The name seemed to slither in the air, leaving unease in its wake. Who was this mysterious figure, and what interest could he have in her quest? For now, those questions would have to wait.
Kumi had a destiny to fulfill, a legacy to reclaim.
The Benin bronzes were more than stolen artifacts. They were pieces of her heritage, and she would see them returned.
With a deep breath and unwavering resolve, Kumi stepped out of the shadows of the past and into the light of a new dawn. Her journey had just begun.